Hi, welcome to Weathering Well. I'm so excited to welcome you into our kitchen, and I wanted to invite you in to help me make this holiday punch. So it's Wassail meets or Wassail. I can't know. I'm not sure exactly how it's pronounced, but it's a Wassail meets apple cider meets other yummy flavors that I love to incorporate together. I'm sipping some now because I already made a batch. For those who don't know me, I'm Shayla Herndon Edmonds. I'm the founder and chief creative officer of Oh My Goodness Wellness Bar. And we are a wellness practice focusing on helping our clients to be well through tools, programs, and work that explores bringing our mind, body, and spirit into alignment so that we can live our best lives as the most healthy and authentic version of ourselves. And in this season, that means wintering well. We're focusing on sharing and exploring ways that during the winter season, we can not only celebrate, but also counter the stress of all the things that come with the holiday seasons for the holiday season. And then many of us may experience things like seasonal affective disorder, which means that during the holidays, when the weather changes, but also the time changes, it sort of impacts how our system is regulating. So we may experience more mood swings or even grief for those of us who navigate grief during the holidays because of the loss of loved ones. Regardless of what perspective you are thinking about wintering well from, I hope that you'll find something in our new magazine that helps you to just think outside the box a little bit, or maybe come back to or return to a practice that you already know is beneficial to you. Because sometimes it's not about doing something new, it's committing to doing the things that we already know to do to be well. So, for our first recipe, we are making my warm holiday punch. The thing about this that I really love is that I like it hot. Right now, this is a completely non alcoholic beverage. But if I wanted to zhuzh it up a little bit, I could add my favorite whiskey or bourbon. You could also serve this cold with a club soda or a little spritzer to give it some fizz and have a mocktail, or serve it cold and add your favorite alcohol to give it a little bit more personality, if you will. So, I hope that you'll enjoy this. I'm incorporating as many ingredients from my garden as I can with the ingredients that we'll be using for these recipes. So, taking another sip, then I'll tell you what you're going to need. So, oh my gosh, that's so good. Happy dance. So, for this recipe, you're going to need cranberries. I prefer fresh. If you have them in a can or frozen, that is quite all right. You're going to need anise and cloves. So this is what star anise looks like. And then you're going to need cloves. We also have some fresh cut apples, lime, oranges, and cinnamon sticks. And I've got to find it to add a little, just a hint of rosemary. You also need some fresh rosemary. Or if you don't have it fresh and you have it dry, make it work for you. So you don't necessarily have to go get new things for this recipe. So that's what you need. You're also going to need some orange juice. So I've got some OJ. So this orange juice is pulp free. However, if you don't have pulp free, you can use a strainer if you don't want to have that pulp in your finished product. Since I'm going to be mixing all these in the pot, it has to be strained anyway. So even if I had pulp in my orange juice, it wouldn't matter so much. The last ingredient, apple cider. So having some of that on hand, or if you are fortunate enough to know how to make it yourself, grab something that's already in your stash, and we've got an apple cider. So go grab your ingredients. I'm going to move on over to the stove and we're going to get started. Thank you so much for being here. Okay, so let's start with our apples. We're going to take our cloves and we are going to put them in our pieces of apple. So you're just going to pick them up. Add a few cloves to each one. So we've got 16 cloves. So I slice my apples into fours. So you can put 4 cloves per apple. Slice. So I know my creative folks might even do some wonderful design. I am just putting forward however I can, keeping it simple. I'm gonna set that anise aside because we'll need that when we move over to our stock pot. All right, almost there. Really excited to share this recipe with you and then to see how you make it your own, because that's the important thing. You can find tons of recipes for almost anything, but I like to make it my own. So I hope that you'll do the same and that you'll enjoy making this. All right, so let's get started. So this should go without saying, but before you start to make this, you need to make sure that all your veggies are washed and everything before you cut them and put them in the pan or the pot. So just want to state the obvious because I realize that everything is not obvious to everyone. So we're starting with our liquids. So I'm going to add all of my orange juice. I've already got my, well, I'm going to put my, I thought I already had it on. I'm going to put my stove on medium heat. I want to be able to get this to about a simmer, making a pretty large batch. However, in the recipe you'll find online, you will see the recipe helps you to make 6 servings, and you can multiply accordingly to get to what you need. So next I'm going to add in my apple cider vinegar. I like to match parts, so 1 part apple cider vinegar to 1 part orange juice, but if you want to taste one more than the other, you can certainly adjust accordingly. So full disclosure, I made a batch earlier today, and I still have some of the fruit from that batch in the pan so that we can continue to get the yummy goodness from that. So I'm going to take a moment to let this start to simmer, and I'm going to, while that's happening, go ahead and add in my star anise. I like to keep these things on in the cabinet. So some people are like, where do you get star anise? You can get it in your grocery store. It's really easy to find, but I like to keep cinnamon as well as star anise and cloves on hand, because then if you're ready, you don't have to get ready. That I always have it when I want to make something like this. Sidebar, it's also really good to add into your rice when you're cooking rice. I didn't believe it until my husband did it. So Curtis, I'm giving you credit. You were right. It actually is pretty good. It just changes the flavor and gives your rice a bit of an aromatic flavor. So we're adding a star anise, and then I am going to find the lid to this, let it start to simmer for a moment, and then we're going to add in everything else. All right. And it is starting to simmer. So I just want to stir this up a bit. It's already smelling amazing. So for those of you who may be a little like me, I generally don't like things that are super sweet, but I kind of make an exception for this because I also like to drink it hot. And when I have it cold, I'll add like a little bit of a lime spritzer that smooths it out and takes away a little bit of the sweetness. I tend to lean on the side of almost bitter, but like I said, this is an exception. However, if you want to add a little bit of water to temper that, or as I mentioned before, you can add some club soda. I like not to add lime club soda to it, both hot and cold. It cuts a little bit of the sweetness, but it also sort of smooths the flavor. I don't have a better way to describe that. I'm not a culinary expert, but that's the way I experience it. I'm gonna turn this back because it's a full simmer. And then I'm just gonna go ahead and start to add our goodies. So I like to save some cranberries for garnish because I like to feel fancy. So I'm going to only add in, I would say about 3/4 of the cranberries I have. I just got these cranberries at Trader Joe's. It's their typical bag that is in your fresh vegetable section. So add in your cranberries, and your sliced oranges. I like to add lime. Some people don't, but I do. You're also going to add in your cinnamon. So what I'm going to do is I added one already. I'm going to break this one apart and just add a piece of it. Because what I like to do, again, because I like to be fancy, is I like to break off little pieces to use for the garnish. So we're gonna save some for garnishing. Next, we are going to add in a sprig of rosemary. Now, if you don't want the flavor of rosemary, you can skip this, but it does something to the profile that I just really like. So I like to keep it. Add a sprig of rosemary. Also have a couple of extra sprigs so that if you decide that you want to use it as a garnish, that you have some. This rosemary is from my garden, so I have an abundance of rosemary. I can garnish until my little old heart is content. And then last, we're going to add our apples with our cloves to the pot on top. And this is gonna start to smell so yummy in here. I think that's part of the beauty of this, is that it also just smells so good to make it. So I wanna give you a close up so you can see what it looks like. Look how amazing that looks. I mean, doesn't it just makes you feel like it's the holidays? And sometimes it's hard for me to get in the holiday feel for whatever reason, but this just, I don't know, it looks like a smiley face, or maybe it just makes me want to smile. It doesn't actually look like a smiley face. But yeah, this is what it looks like. So I'm going to cover this and let it simmer, like I said, 30 to 40 minutes. However, don't forget that the first day you make it, save some leftovers. So I have bottles like these or larger ones, or, you know, whatever you use for storing beverages, so that I can save some for the next day. The next day, I promise you, it will taste even better. All right, so I'm going to cover this and let it simmer, and we'll look at the outcome later. In the meantime, I'm going to finish this. Right, so I'm back. My punch has been, I don't know if I should call it a punch, or I'm going to call it a punch. My hot Wassail punch has been simmering for actually more than an hour. I did add some more cranberries and oranges to it, and more apple cider, just because I wanted it to be a little bit more sweet and flavorful. But it's time for a taste test, and I have my youngest here who is willing to try, who actually wants to try. When I picked him up from school, he's like, "Mommy, do you have some more of that punch?" So I'm going to pour some for Miles, and we will get his feedback on what it tastes like. So as I mentioned, I put all of my goodies in the pot, so I actually have a little strainer in the cup so that all the pulp and cranberries and pieces of rosemary are not floating around, although I intentionally put cranberries in the bottom just for cuteness and to be a little fancy. But we'll see what Mr. Mousy thinks. Hopefully he likes it, because you know kids are brutally honest, and when they don't like stuff, they tend to tell you. So, and the good thing about this is that you can add a little sweetener if you needed, throw in some pineapple juice, really, you know, whatever citrusy and sweet things you have. And all the flavors just kind of come together. So, I'm going to set this aside. Add his garnishes. So we're adding for garnishes rosemary, and a stick of cinnamon. Not gonna give him a full glass yet, because as I said, this is a taste test, and we'll see what he thinks. All right, be right back. All right, Milesy, so be honest with me. I want you to give it a try and tell me what you think.
Okay. Pretty good.
Pretty good? Uh-oh, we're
Really
going for
good.
really good. All right. So I hope that you enjoyed making this with me. I would love for you to send us a picture of how yours came out. Show me what you did to garnish your beverage. You can do that in the comments or go on to our Instagram or just post your own story. Tag us at OMG Wellness Bar. But we wish you love and blessings. Pray that you are wintering well, and season's greetings wherever you are. Bye-bye.
Thank you for coming. Please follow OMG Wellness Bar. Goodbye.